Hi guys, welcome once again to a special edition of Boss Talks with Monaster de Mombo. We have Dr. Allegro from Orgella Group. I had to get that one correct. Dr. Allegro is a very impressive business lady. She's a mom. She is somebody who's been recognized by Forbes as 30 underneath 30. And now, what is that, 40 underneath 30? What is that?
40 under 40.
40 under 40, you know, they keep clocking it up.
Yeah.
And we're here just to have a discussion around, you know, some of the things that you've learned, some of the insights, you know, give those who are on their journey a pathway. That's the idea behind this series, is to create that kind of dialogue between people who are doing something great within their industries. And you know, glad to have you here, and let's explore for a minute or two about who is Dr. Allegro, who's the person behind the curtain. Tell us.
Well, thank you for having me. I think this is an amazing platform. It's not every day entrepreneurs get to be vulnerable,
Right.
and you know, just share their stories.
Right.
Truthfully so. So Dr. Allegro, that's actually a new title that I'm still getting used to myself.
Right.
But Allegro is a young woman, a young South African woman from Limpopo province. I was born in Polokwane, raised in Pretoria, and I always say hustling in Johannesburg.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm a mom of two. I've got a 5-year-old son and a 2-year-old. Keep me very busy, on my toes all the time.
I can imagine.
Everybody calls them boss babies,
Oh,
because
yeah?
now suddenly I'm boss mom.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so Allegro is just a very ambitious young lady from Polokwane, proudly South African woman who's just really trying to make the most of her life. I think for me, the day I realized my purpose and what it is I want to achieve, I just never stopped.
What is that purpose? I mean, what is the driving point behind what you're going for? What is the vision, and what are you driving for? What motivates you?
I'm motivated to inspire.
Okay.
My purpose is to inspire, you know, from...
Inspire who? More ladies, particularly young girls, or everybody? Africans? What?
Preferably more women.
Okay.
Especially those who feel like they cannot achieve a certain amount of success, or they cannot leave whatever discomfort that they're in. They don't think that their dreams are valid, you know. But in general, just young South Africans who at times, many times, feel like it's the end of the world. There are not enough opportunities, high percentage of unemployment, all of that, you know. This is why I started my company very young. I started at 21.
Okay.
I was still a student. I was in my 3rd year at university, and I had already told myself that when I leave the University of Johannesburg, I'm not going to look for a job. Yes,
Okay.
I'm studying for my degree, and yes, I want to pass, you know, but I am not going to hustle for a job. Instead, I'm going to start something. And I started my company at the age of 21, graduated, and it's all I've ever done. And
Okay.
that's, you know, so
That's
my
amazing.
story, thank you. So my story for me is really just being inspirational. When young South Africans hear about my story, they look at my life, they're like, actually, it is possible to not make excuses, to not sit back and say, well, who's going to hire me? Nobody's hiring, you know.
Right.
We're going to school, yes, because we want to thrive academically. But then when we graduate, we sit at home for years with no jobs.
Right.
But Allegro didn't do that, you know. So I want to be that inspiration. Apart from, you know, obviously starting a business as entrepreneurs, we all want money. We
Right.
all want to succeed. I mean, I'm not just doing this to inspire people, you know. I want to live comfortably. I want to create a lifestyle for my children that they can be proud that I'm their mom. You know, I made it possible for them to live such, you know, unique lives. Because, I mean, why would I work so hard?
Right.
You know, so now I've got this huge responsibility of raising human beings, but at the back of my mind, whatever I do, I always know that somebody is watching. Somebody is going to be inspired by my journey, my story. So give it your all, or don't do it at all. You know, just, yeah.
Okay, so you have 21. You start your business.
Yeah.
Mother of 2.
Yeah.
So taking care of the babies, raising them, you have your business. How do you find the balance how do you find the balance between that relationship, trying to manage yourself, manage, taking care of yourself as well?
Yeah.
I mean, you came straight out and you're your own boss, so there's obviously the challenge of now having to raise kids and taking some time away from work. What does that look like? Tell us a bit more about that.
Let me run it back a little. So I have been this independent boss lady from 21 up until 27 and a half.
Okay.
Right? I pack my bags and I go wherever I want, whenever I want.
Right.
I hop on a flight. Nobody's waking me up early in the morning. Nobody
Right.
wants to watch cartoons during the day.
Right.
And then suddenly at 28, I'm like, actually, I think I'm ready to have a child now.
Okay.
28, I have my first baby, my son Elohim. And immediately, because everybody saw Allegro as this go-getter, always on the move, I felt the need to keep up with that.
Right.
I remember I gave birth to my son in December, and then I only spent like the Christmas holidays at home with my mom,
Right.
helping me out with the baby and all. Like towards the end of Jan, I was
Back
back.
at work.
Feb, I'm in the office.
Okay.
And it was like, keep it going, boss lady.
Right.
I need to keep inspiring.
Right.
I need to show them that a baby's not going to stop me.
Right.
A baby, I'm going to keep going.
Right.
But after some time, I had to sit down and have like an honest conversation with myself. And I said, you know what? This is a phase in my life that I prayed for. I wanted to be a mom. I'm a mom now. And now I'm leaving my 2-month-old and I'm already on a business trip to India.
Right.
The ball keeps rolling, as if nothing happened, as if I didn't spend the past 9 months growing a human being and now I have to nurture a human being.
Right.
And I think that pressure came from the fact that when you're a woman in the business space, when you are an entrepreneur, it's almost seen as if you take a break, you are weak. You can't keep up with your male counterparts.
Right.
But we forget that women have so many more other responsibilities.
Right.
It's easier for a man to impregnate a woman and continue with life.
Right.
She's the one who's carrying the baby. He can continue doing his work and all of that right up until the 9 months and then after and so on. Daddy's got to work. Daddy goes to work.
Right.
But after some time, I had to just reflect and I was like, this is not what I want.
Right.
I actually want to take 6 months off and just focus on my little baby until he starts crawling maybe, until
Right.
I don't want to miss the milestones. And so when I had my second child in 2021, a COVID baby, my little COVID baby was just like,
Right.
he literally forced me to just relax.
Okay.
Yes, we were working, but things were a bit slower. We were adjusting to so many changes during that period. I was home all the time.
Right.
And I appreciated that time with my second born. And I keep beating myself up about, I wish I had done this when I had my first child. I wish I didn't have to keep up with what the world expected me to be, keep
Right.
going, don't show any, signs of vulnerability, don't step into your feminine power as a woman in leadership position, be like the men, step up and suit up and keep it moving. Meanwhile, my boobs are huge. I need to take my breast pump and go pump some milk out.
Right.
And I'm in the middle of a board meeting and then I need to go to the airport and you're like, why are we doing all of this, you know?
Trying too hard.
It was just too much.
Right.
It was just too much. And at some point you need to admit to yourself that I need to just take on each phase of my life as it comes. There was a phase of me building the Ogela Foundation, building the business. There was a phase when I said, I'm ready to be a mother. There's a phase when I'm ready to be a mom again.
Right.
And go through that phase of just nurturing my babies and still, 1 foot in my business, 1 foot in my personal life and trying to find the balance. I don't believe that we can ever find that real balance,
sweet spot, the equilibrium.
But just really try and prioritize things as they come and not feel the pressure to be like the man in power,
So let's understand this. You have your business, you have your babies, you have the back and forth struggle of trying to keep up with the pressures and not to be seen as weak. Do you think that as the business world, do you think that the focus of work is a bit of more of a masculine role and you have to engage more into the masculine side, into your masculine energy to be able to compete. I mean, naturally there's the thought process behind that, but what is that experience from your own perspective, who is somebody who has been in business since the get-go, who has had those pressures, and who has probably leaned in on that side of, as you said, a bit more of a masculine role to be able to upkeep this pressure, which almost feels like it's working against your nature sometimes. What's your view on that?
I mean, it's definitely a man's world. It's definitely, I mean, when you're in business, there's so many challenges as a woman that I've faced, and I hear many other stories of other female entrepreneurs, even aspiring ones, just trying to get the one foot in the door, you know, that they go through. So it really toughens us up in a way that sometimes we even forget, you know, our true nature as women, that you can step into your feminine power and lead as a woman, lead, you know. And it's funny that you bring this up, because I was reading a stat, I'm not too sure how far back, that many of the businesses that survived during the COVID period were led by women.
Okay.
And it's funny how it's the women that are in the leadership positions that get scrutinized the most.
Right.
You know, that feel the need to work 10 times harder to prove themselves.
Right.
And yet it's their leadership skills that actually took a lot of companies, saw them really just evolve through, you know, this past maybe 2-3 years of that, you know, global pandemic, and still come out on the other side. You know, they didn't close their doors, they didn't retrench as many people as they thought they would.
Right.
So sometimes I think it's really up to us as women. Yes, we might say, you know what, the industry itself, being in business, is very male dominated, but if we step into our power more as women and lead like women, I think that's where we start to change the narrative.
How do you balance the masculine and the feminine? It's almost like the beauty and the beast, right? You still want to shine as a woman, as you know, your feminine side, but you have this shell that is hardening the more that you're existing within this man world framework. And then you're that externally, you're boss mom, you know, at work, and then you come home. And how does that work in terms of from a relationship perspective, and how you present or engage yourself and wear different hats? Is that something that you've been successful at? Is that something that you've struggled with? It's obviously something that a lot of people in positions of power, a lot of females in position of power, have struggled with. What has been your experience?
I mean, it's very difficult. I actually had a lot of negative experiences in the beginning, you know, because somebody perceives you in a certain way, and you're like, well, I'm over here trying to find someone real, you know, or invite you into my world without any of these, you know, perceptions you have of me. People look at you and they're like, well, she's successful, she's a go-getter, she's hardworking, she looks like she knows what she wants in life. I don't think I'm going to match up, you know. And already now you're walking into a potential relationship with all of these assumptions. And I'm just like, work aside, I was just trying to get to know someone, you know. So it becomes very difficult to find a very honest and solid relationship as women. Like I've encountered a lot of female entrepreneurs who say it's so hard dating, you know, as an entrepreneur. You know, people just have all sorts of perceptions about you, and you're trying to like, okay, that hat aside, am I not interesting enough? Like, get to know me, the person, you know, outside of the title, you know, outside of Dr. Allegro, outside of the founder and CEO of Ogele Group, and so on. But I think over the years, you know, you start to, once you find yourself moving the same circles with the right people, maybe it is easier to just date within your circles. We understand each other more, and so on. So it's difficult because now you're trying to strike a balance between, you know, your career and actually your, you know, finding something meaningful in your personal life, and it just becomes another job, you know, another hurdle that you need to get through. So it's difficult.
So you being in a position where you start dating within your common circles, now everybody's busy. So, and then again, you said it's like a second job, right? You now have two outwardly alphas, and then at home, how is that managed?
Listen, I've dated, I think of one great example. I dated a guy where we would actually have breakfast meetings at the airport at some point.
Oh.
Like, we're in Cape Town together, or my flight's this time, I have an interview later, and you don't, let's just try and make it work, you know. And it's also another difficult, you know, hurdle that you need to work around and navigate, because trust me, you're going to date another entrepreneur who's just as busy, if not more busier than you.
Right.
You know, if they're in the country, you're lucky. If they're not in meetings almost around the clock, it's like, you know, so pick a struggle. You know, it's literally like, which one do you want? You know, and then when it comes to at home, to answer your question, it's also a matter of sometimes you want to prioritize, you know, family life. You know, you've got your family values and so on. But sometimes it's, even for me, it's difficult for me to tell my kids, listen, mommy just needs another hour on the laptop. I just need to work. I'll come watch a movie with you. I'll come play soccer with you in the garden. Just give me some time. And that time, they don't want anybody else in the house. They just want mommy. Mommy this, mommy that. I remember when my son was about 6 months, my youngest, I had a talk that I was giving. It was a conference that was in Rwanda. And I had to do that. Listen, I apologized so many times during that live online talk on my lab. I was like, I just need to bring him in. Like, say hi to everybody. Just, you know, run with it, because the kid is there. They want mommy's attention and you're working. And it was a lot easier at the time because everybody was stepping out of like the whole COVID. They're like, we all understand. Don't worry about it. Work from home vibes, you know. We've all been in such situations where the kid just wants you. Doesn't matter. You know, so it's very hard striking the balance within the dating space, striking the balance at home as an entrepreneur. But I've learned to really set boundaries, you know. I used to work even on weekends. Now, I'll tell you that tomorrow I'm taking my kids to the farm. No one can talk me out of that one. If it's a meeting, we're doing it on Monday. You know, of course there are exceptions every now and then. But when I dedicate my Sundays to family time, it has to be family time. Because during the week, I don't know. You know how it is with entrepreneurship. You think you've got your week planned out, and then things double up, triple up, and then it's just a manic week. So really setting boundaries, prioritizing family and what it is that's important, because work is not always going to be there. But the people you love most, your family, your children, you need to be there for them.
So you mention different aspects, which, you know, you touch on the challenges of it all. From a person who outwardly people could perceive that, okay, you have it all. How do you find that balance when there is no balance? Because obviously we want to achieve a balance, but most times there is no balance. And even if we do find that balance, it's for a very brief time. What then becomes the priority that you focus on? And as this question leans on the fact that people will assume that you have everything. So how do you then find that balance when you're out of balance in your life? And what then takes the priority? And how do you then manage one of the other main pillars that then have to take a step back?
I think for me personally, it's always been recentering myself. I have to take priority. Like you said, I mean, you can't pour out into everybody else's cups if I'm empty, you know. And another difficult thing that I've had to, you know, adjust and come to terms with and actually accept and not feel bad about doing, you know, because a lot of the times we want to give so much as women that we're left empty. But when I actually turn around and say, no, hang on, it's mommy's time, or even mommy mode aside, it's just Allegro's time. I need a break. You know, business has been hard of late. I need to take a break. I need to reset. Give me 4 days, give me a week. Let me just step away from the business a little bit, you know, and just go find my source of inspiration, or just, you know, just because you feel like you've been working so hard and you're just drained. And a lot of the times we feel bad just for taking that break, not understanding that if I don't take the break, eventually everything's going to come crashing down anyway. So the break is actually necessary to keep moving, you know. And you know, when I then became a mom, it was, I need to put my kids first, everything for them, you know. And I got to a point where I was like, but wait, when does mom have a break? When does the boss mom have a break? You know, because now I'm always trying to please my kids, my family, and have it all together and so on. I can't have it all together at work and have it all together at home and expect that I will be sane, that I will be fine.
Do you find that, you know, I very often say to my wife that, you know, I encourage her that she takes time for herself and, you know, re-energizes up. You know, a woman makes a home, right? And I don't take my own medicine, right? So do you think that it's something that is more directed, that women in these positions should take more time for themselves, or do you think that's just a general blanket view? Because every time my wife tells me you need to take time off, I'm like, I go even harder. I'm like, nah, I can't pull back, right? And there's obviously the sense of responsibility and, you know, protect and provide and all that kind of good stuff. But do you think that that's something that more leans towards the feminine side, or it's something that is actually a balanced view that people should apply?
I think it leans more to the feminine side. I think sometimes, I mean, people assume that men can just keep going.
Right.
Like, it's fine. We don't need to worry about, you know, your CEO who's a man. I mean, all he has is, he must just do the work. You know, he's not caring for the kids at home. He's not doing whatever other multiple hats that possibly his wife, his partner could be wearing. So it's something that is more advisable to women. It's like, oh, don't forget to take care of yourself because you do so much, you know. But I think it should in general apply to everybody. Like you're saying, your wife will sometimes say to you, take a break, and you're like, no, I've got so many responsibilities, I want to keep it moving. Meanwhile, you don't understand that if you don't pour back into yourself, you're going to end up, by the end of the year, you fizzle out. You're tired, you're drained, you're not inspired anymore because you don't take breaks in between. You know, you just want to keep going. And it's hard for entrepreneurs because you think you take a break, you miss an opportunity. You miss a chance. This could have happened. If I take a break for like a week from your business, who does that?
Who does that,
you know, who starts switching off their phone like after 9 p.m.? I still get calls like after that. And you have to set those boundaries and realize that, you know what, you can't keep chasing success and overworking yourself in that manner. There are far more important things. And yes, Ogela will always be my first baby. That's my first baby. But if that company were to close today, I'm happy. I've got my family. I've built this wonderful, close-knit family that I do everything I can for. And that's the most important thing, you know, and keeping my sanity, you know, as Allegro, away from every title that you've mentioned, away from all of that. I want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. I want to know that I've, you know, lived out my purpose, you know, and I'm comfortable and happy with the decisions that I've made along my journey, and not feel the need to always overwork myself to prove a point because I need to keep it moving, you know. There's also this pressure where people, I used to get it a lot on like my Instagram DMs, are like, there's all these other new entrepreneurs, like every year Forbes releases a new list. And I'm like, it's their time now. You know, they're popping up now. It's their time. I made the list back in 2017. I was 27 years old at the time. You know, there's going to be many more successful entrepreneurs that come our way. But that doesn't mean I should work myself to the bone because I'm trying to always be number one. I'm trying to be like, oh, I was the first one on the list. I did this, I did that. Trust me, there's others that are coming, probably will even overcome, you know, and overtake and do far greater things. And I shouldn't feel the need to always prove a point that I'm still one of the best young entrepreneurs in the country or whatever. At some point, I think it becomes an issue of, are you happy? After all that money, you've made it, you lost it, you made it again. Are you still happy with the journey that you're on? Or are things changing? Are your passions changing? You know, are you going in a different direction? I always revisit this question of why I started Ogela every year. So yeah, I believe that when the spotlight's on you and it's your time, you use it wisely, you know. Don't worry so much about who's coming after me. Am I always going to be number one? Am I always going to be, you know, the person they reference when they speak about this industry or that or whatever. In fact, you should be proud that if you were one of the first, one of the pioneers, and you opened doors and you made things a little easier for the next entrepreneurs that come along the way, you've done your job.
Right.
You know, you've done your job. I would be so bummed if within my industry, things just got tougher and tougher every year.
Right.
Meanwhile, we've been around. Why aren't we making it easier for more women to step into those leadership roles?
Right.
For more young South Africans to launch their own businesses? You know, it's through our stories and our journeys that it gets easier for the
Right.
next generation. So I'm always motivated with every year that comes, you know, when I turn a year older, my business turns a year older. And people always ask me like, but wait, how old are you?
Right.
Because I started at 21, when I talk about my company being over a decade old, it sounds like, oh my goodness, are
Right.
you? And I'm like, no, actually, I'm still in my early 30s.
Black don't crack. Right.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm still in my early 30s, but because I started so young, the journey has been this long and, you know, successful. We've had our downs, but overall it's been good.
Do you find that people, the younger generation of people coming up underneath you,
Yeah.
you actually find to have the competition or the new generation or whatever,
Yeah.
do you find that some of them try to pull you down in order for them to come up?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with the process of a woman, a black woman who you've laid a foundation that ultimately they, whether they admit it or not, have stepped on in order for them to go up to their place, and then they try to pull you down the process? How do you deal with that?
I just mind my own business and keep it moving. One of my favorite hashtags, I use
Yeah,
all of
keep it
my
moving.
social, keep it moving. You know,
yeah.
because I can't address every small issue.
Right.
You know, I have mentored so many women. I have a mentorship platform called Boss Chic South Africa.
Okay.
We take in mentees every year, 6 to 12. It depends on, you know, that year's calendar. But even just 2 days ago, I had a session with one of our new mentees who's based in Cape Town. And she's struggling with a similar question, like just saying that she was telling me how she's still a student at UCT. And she says she was nominated for like class leadership position.
Okay.
And it always, the people who would congratulate her aren't the women.
Right.
She sees more of the, you know, the side eyes,
Right.
the, you know, the nastiness usually comes from the
Right.
same gender. And it's
Right.
like, but if, am I not worth this position? Why do I
Right.
get an applause from our male counterparts, and then the females struggle to actually say, you know what, actually, I'm here because of you. You're doing a great job. Like you're saying, you paved the way, and some of them will never acknowledge.
Right.
They will never acknowledge that, listen, because you started your company 10 years ago and things got easier for us. We started getting, you know, easy access to funding and all those other things that they're in need of. They will never directly personally come to you and say, listen, Allegro, I am so grateful. I've been inspired by your journey.
Right.
And the ones that do, I'm always appreciative. You know, I get
Right.
a lot on social media. I get a lot of them in person where, you know, people come up to you and they say, you know what, you've inspired me. I started my business because of you. And for me, it hits home because my sisters, I'm the last of 4. I've got 1 brother and 2 older sisters.
Okay.
They started their own businesses. And when my sister said, I started a business because of you, you know,
Right.
she's in the nursing field, but she wanted extra source of income, and she was just like, you know what, my little sister inspires me
Right.
to do more and to do something. So it's motivating when you get people like that who can actually, you know, acknowledge the steps that you've, you know, moved in.
Right.
But when you don't get that acknowledgement, and when you get the ones that want to try and pull you down, especially from the same gender,
Right.
keep it moving. I don't address anything. You will never, I can bet you,
Get a
actually,
response.
I just do not respond.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. And for me, it's a useful thing to hear, you know, a different viewpoint. And I think your communication sounds very evolved, that you're not being an extreme feminist or, you know, like it gets, I feel it gets a bit too much sometimes. And I myself am a very strong character, so you know, to deal with that kind of engagement, I'm just like, well, you know, like who are you trying to show off? that too. Just be yourself, you know, be, you know, I find the feminine nature such a beautiful thing, obviously, and matches the masculinity element. And obviously even the masculinity needs a level of, it's the yin and yang, right? It's, you know, the white and the black falling into one another, but there's a little bit of the black and the white and a little bit of white and the black, right? So there has to be some balance, not an extreme version of it all, but naturally so I do feel like that femininity balances out that masculinity, but at the same time, I don't want weakness in the femininity, and a lot of people can think that it's either one or the other. And I think there's a bit of an evolved viewpoint that you have here, which is useful for people trying to figure it out, because a lot of people are trying to figure out, and you're still in your journey. But at least you have that viewpoint from somebody who can look and say, well, she has the business, right? She is a mom, you know, she is young, and she's a black woman in Africa. All these different elements, they come together, but at the same time, you can still have an evolved viewpoint. I mean, you have traveled a sufficient amount globally, you know, interactions with people from all over the world in different places and positions, and also still maintained as well your dignity as a woman, you know, your respect in terms of how it is that you present and reflect yourself, and still keeping your core values, which I think is a great example for women out there, because something that people can aspire to, and we all struggle with this perception that we're trying to present and trying to play a role. And so sometimes we forget to be ourselves, and we forget that we are a human in the human experience. So from a young lady looking up to you, it gives them a different viewpoint, that they can understand something a bit different. And I think that's an amazing thing, and something that, you know, we all need an example. And a lot of people are afraid to be that example because of the pressure that comes with it. But if you're just authentically yourself, and you're just learning and growing and constantly improving, you then naturally become an example to other people. And obviously, just accepting that you're still a human being, and you can make mistakes, and you have your, you know, you have your challenges, and it's okay. I think that's it's an important thing. Okay, so in closing, I think we would want to, what would you give as advice to a young girl trying to figure her journey, trying to get it all, and at the same time, you know, keep herself and grow into more of herself? What advice would you give to a young mentee of yours who is trying to figure this out?
I think firstly I'd advise them to be honest with themselves. Be honest with what you truly want. Don't do it for your parents. Don't do it because your neighbor is studying this and now you want to go study that. Don't do it. Like, what is your passion? What do you love? You know, I've come across a lot of bright young ladies, but they're in the wrong fields because they did something to please parents. They did something because teachers told them they were good at that. But they just weren't really sure with that, you know, but they just went along with it anyway, you know. So have honest conversations with yourself. Don't be afraid to spend time alone. Grab a journal, jot down the things that you know that this is where I would love to see myself. This is where I would love my life to be in the next 5, 10 years or whatever. And this is what I love, you know. Money aside, difficulty aside, whatever, because there's always going to be issues. But what is it that you love and what you truly want to see yourself doing? And then surround yourself with a great support system. No man or woman is an island. We all know that. Some of us learn the hard way, you know, along the journeys. But we all need a cheerleader. I believe in being my #1 cheerleader. But outside of myself, trust me, my family, my mother, my children, you know, you need to have something that drives you. You need to have a team. You know, my team at Ogela, some days I'm like, this is too difficult. I don't think we're going to do this. And my team is just like, wait, what? We've been through worse. Why are you so negative now? Why are you so, you know, beating yourself up and all of that? You need that support system. You need that team. And I think finally, we touched on this earlier on, just don't be afraid to center yourself. You know, by that, I'm a Christian. For me, I'm centered by God. Whatever it is that you believe in out there, You know,
Right.
what centers you when your whole world is chaotic? Figure out your source of inspiration, figure out your source of, you know, being. I believe we're all spiritual beings. And
Right.
for me, the minute I hit a brick wall, I hit difficulties, I hit a moment where I feel like, God, I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm going to do this. Why did you place such a gift if you weren't going to give me the resources to actually make it work?
Right.
You know, I go back into my shell and I pray.
Right.
And I go and I meditate and I go and I spend time alone and I figure out my why. Why did you start? Why
Right.
are you here? Is this still your purpose? Is it still your passion? Do you still want to do it, or are you just going along the journey because you've done it for so long, it's become a habit now? You're so comfortable in that space. Have those honest conversations with yourself. They're going to save you a lot of time. They're going to save you a lot of heartache, a lot of wrong relationships along the way, because you'd be able to set the right boundaries that you need to set, remove people as you need, you know, as you go along your journey. Don't
Right.
keep people for the sake of being nice. It's my high school friend, I've known them for so long, and yet that's the one person who always speaks down in your life.
Right.
Every time you share a great goal, they're like, but you were never good at that. Do you think you're going to do it now?
Right.
Instead of saying, well, hang on, I think that's a great idea. Let's do some more research. Let me be your accountability partner. Let me help you out with that. They're always like, but you were never bright at school anyway. Who do you think you are?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, keep people around you that are going to keep you motivated, especially if you want to tap into entrepreneurship, because it's a lonely journey, but it doesn't have to be. You know, it doesn't
Right.
have to be when you surround yourself with the right people. And I think above everything, just do what you love. The money will follow. I know it's cliche. I know they always say it,
Right.
but trust me, I love Ogela. I love what I do. The money followed.
Right.
I didn't start Ogela Group because of, I saw like the rands, the dollar signs. I just did what I loved. And along the way, I was like, what? Hobby turned into a business?
Right.
This is my money? Oh,
Right.
I'm going in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now I was like, oh, the money is here.
Right.
You know, but I didn't follow the money. It's what I love.
That's amazing, and I think you and my wife would get along. She's got that, you know, center yourself, you know, meditate, you know, spend time on yourself,
Yeah.
you know, be authentic. You know, those are just really some strong principles that that guide what I've seen is a strong foundation, and we're all trying to do it better.
Yeah.
We're all, you know, we get lost and we're all trying to figure it out, but it's definitely some, you know, have faith. Faith is super important, you know. People may think that, okay, once you've made some money, everything's all good, but it's actually, I always say that it's when you have a struggle to eat, that's one struggle. When you're trying to deal with this monster of an operation and you have a problem that you need to solve, you can't just get food from someone, you know what I mean? Someone just can't help you with that. You're not just going to get 10 million from nowhere. So that is something that I've seen, and I definitely think, you know, you have some good principles that people can learn from, and that's just amazing. What do you say is a quote that you live by? What's a good book? And you know, what's the vision for the future, and where do we find Allegro 5-10 years from now?
A quote that I live by, trust your gut, it's your inner compass, by Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
You know, there'll be times where, like you say, we lose ourselves. And at that moment, the only voice you need to listen to is yourself, you know.
Right.
And when you trust your gut and you trust yourself, you know which direction you need to go.
Right.
You will know if you're honest enough. And then a great book, Out of the Maze, Dr. Spencer Johnson.
Okay.
And the sequel to that, just forgot now. Out of the Maze, and not the sequel, Out of the Maze is a sequel. So the first book, Who Stole My Cheese?
Okay.
And then Out of the Maze. You have to read them in that order.
Okay.
Mind-blowing, compact books that will literally have you rethinking the way you do things. And I read them at the perfect time during the pandemic because everybody was struggling with change.
Right.
And those books literally just help you push through and adjust and evolve through, you know, changing times. And then who's Allegro in the next 5-10 years? Allegro is a happy, proud mom of, in 5 years, my firstborn will be 9.
Okay.
I am a soccer mom.
Okay.
I am raising a young Messi. Somewhere between those two.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm a family woman. Like I love my boys. I love what I do. Ogela will be there.
Right.
But I definitely in the next 10 years will not be at the helm. I'm actually going through some structural changes.
Okay.
I won't be the CEO.
Okay.
That's for sure. But I'll be a lot happier.
Right.
I'll just be happier. Yeah, I think that question makes me glow.
Right.
I'll be happier, living my best life, raising my boys. Doing what God wants me to do.
That's amazing. Okay. Where do people find you on socials?
Yeah.
If people are looking to connect with you.
Yeah. And where do people find me? You can find me on www.ogelagroup.com.
Okay.
All info about every single company I own, what we do is there. And on social media, it's at Allegro_D. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, same name. You find me there. Instagram, very active there. So you get a glimpse into my life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, we would like to thank you for coming on. We have some fragrances here. Just as a nice little gift that we can, just give out to you. I've chosen some options for you here. Okay. You have Delaire, which is a very fresh one. Mm-hmm. You have Sabe, which is our absolute classic. And then you have L'Arboreal. These ones, my understanding is that you like a nice fresh smell, something that is feminine. You just pop it up. There we go. So which one's that? Is that Sabe? That's our all-time classic. And then you have L'Arboreal as well. These are just some beautiful fresh options that I think L'Arboreal.
Yeah.
All right, great choice. That's you?
Yeah, this is me.
Amazing.
And well done. This is amazing.
All right.
To you and your team.
Thank you.
I am going to talk about this on my Instagram.
Thank you. You enjoy it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out, sharing some of your viewpoints with us, and certainly we hope to connect very, very soon.
Definitely.
Alrighty.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, done.